Back to the stream. I hope everything works well. I'm sorry I haven't done more this spring break, but I took a little bit of spring break and I practiced every day, but I didn't always have something that I could present. Today, we are going to talk about practicing our expression and our voice. And a lot of us, that's kind of the reason we got into this in the first place, right? We all kind of decided to play music for a living because of that sort of expressive capability that the trumpet voice gave us. Maybe better than our regular voice. And we're going to be using that today. But we're also going to be using the Arban's book. And a lot of us ignore this section called the Art of Phrasing. And that's a mistake, I think, because it's a lot of very simple melodies that are kind of operatic by nature, some of them literal operas, and or rather excerpts from. And instead we go right to the back of the book, maybe, or the characteristic studies, or we practice the lip slurs, or, like, there's a lot in the Arban's book that there's plenty to practice. But one of the things that we really kind of fail to practice enough is our ability to have a strong musical voice that we really like. In other words, the tone is beautiful, but it also travels and goes somewhere. And I think that these Art of Phrasing tunes, if you will, are a really great place to do that. And not just, I think it would be easy to say, yeah, I agree, I'm going to go get that section out and I'm going to find the nicest room I can play in and I'm just going to have fun playing the trumpet. And there's nothing wrong with that. But that's not what I want to do with them, and not what I think you should do, at least not for very long. Then you're sort of just reveling in it, right? And you're not really learning anything. And so what are we going to learn? Well, we're going to learn how hard it is to play really beautiful music in just my office here. I've turned off basically everything. I have a little tiny bit of studio reverb. In other words, like the deadest reverb, but still just a tiny bit. That way we can hear the sound for just a little bit longer and maybe criticize it more, right? So I'm not gaining anything. I'm actually revealing how bad maybe things might be. Hopefully not too bad. So I want to do that. It's very much what it sounds like in my actual house. And that's what I'm interested in. And then when I play in a hall, it's going to be so much easier to be expressive. Then I also, I'm trying to get my distance from the microphones just right so that you can really hear my real sound, and we'll see if that happens. But I'm also concerned about that, right? I want my intonation and my tone quality to be another thing that I consider here. So let's get into it and not talk too much about it. I'm on, if you're in the old Arban's book up until the Tom Hooton and Jennifer Murata edition, then I'm on page 196 right now, and I'm going to play one of my favorite early ones called Constance, number 21. And, well, first we need to make some musical decisions, right? I don't want to just start. I could just start playing, and it's a good way to sight read, but, and we'll do that some later, but let's make some musical decisions. So, let's see. There's a C trumpet finger. Okay. Da, 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 da. So I'm just trying to sing as musically as I can on pitch with the fingerings because I'm practicing where do I want the phrase to go. Now I've played this one a few times and so I kind of have an idea, but I could make new decisions maybe every couple of times and then see if I can execute that. You don't want to make new decisions on the fly as you're playing it in public, right? But it's good to switch it up every once in a while and try to change your musical decisions, not just to keep it fresh, but just to try different things that you might really like. So, da 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 da. So I want to arrive there, and I want to get there kind of gently. I don't want to go da da bum. I want to da da da. And so just being able to hear that in my head, right? Imagine that, and then also practice it in my voice a little bit. Even as bad as my voice is, I'm doing my best musically. And this is piano andante espressione, and so the dynamic is another consideration. Like I'm not sure that I can do all of that and play piano. So at first I'm not going to try. I'm going to do it I'm going to get the expression, get the tone, get the arrivals, and then I'm going to miniaturize that so that it sounds just as much but softer. So let's try all that. Okay, here we go. So I'll listen back to this in a little bit and decide how I did, but I think I got most of the ideas that I was practicing in my voice, and I only played a little bit of it, right? But it was definitely too loud, and I might have gone a little more slowly. And here's the thing about music and speed. The faster you go, the more it kind of carries its own weight of musicality, because you're getting to the next thing faster. Especially if it's really pyrotechnic, like double tonguing or whatever, super fast stuff, then it's not that you don't want to make any music, but it's already kind of energetic in its own right, and so you don't have to do a lot more with it. But it's also harder to do something with it because there's not a lot of time, right? So if you're going, well, you can only make sort of broad gestures, and even so, those might actually cost you some of the accuracy, or, it's very hard, it's very tricky to get music into a 16th note at 160, right? So you have to do it sort of in broader strokes, and the other side of that is the slower you go, the more time you have to make a musical gesture, but the more responsibility you have to keep it interesting through those musical gestures. So you can try to find the perfect in-between where you kind of don't have to do too much, and it kind of carries itself, but you have some time to do it. And I think for a performance of in your recital or whatever, that might be a good idea. And then practice it that way so that your recital is as easy as it can be, so you can get through all of it, right? But still has something to it. But I try to go as slowly as possible, because then when I go a little faster, well, I don't have as much time to make the gesture, but I have practiced it at least, and the music is carrying it on its own. But it also means that if we go really slow on something, then I know how to make that interesting still. I would not like to play something really slowly and not have practiced making it interesting, right? So that's the idea. All right, so can we make this now softer? And I just want to play a bunch of these, and I want to play a bunch of horns because, well, I need to practice this on all my trumpets. This is my B-flat trumpet. It has a lot of expressive capabilities, but so does my C, and so does my E-flat. Actually, my best E-flat is at school, I just realized, but, well, we'll see if we can make this one work, and we'll play a couple of these. So if you happen to be on and watching and you have favorites, please make some requests in the chat, and I would be happy to do my worst. All right, here we go. I'm going to play a little more constants. I'm going to keep going from where I did, but I'm going to try to bring the dynamic down slowly but surely, and we'll see if we can get through the rest of it. So I had to go back for one part because I just couldn't stand that F it just didn't sound right, didn't respond right, and I didn't want to give it more gas to get that because, well, that's not in the spirit of the softer that I'm trying to get. I also slowed down near the end, right, because I was trying to play softer and softer, and it's easy to conflate those two as well as louder and faster. But I think we did okay keeping our musical voice. And so let's talk about that while I decide which one I'm going to do next. I already know, German song, but we'll play it on something else. What do I mean by voice? Well, there's a lot to it, and it's also very hard to understand and describe, but it's very easy to understand without trying to describe it, right? So my voice is my voice. It's the way that I sing, and whether that's on the trumpet or my actual voice, it's the way that you do it. And so what does that mean? Well, when we start to try to define it, it becomes a little mired in complexity, right? But it's my tone. It's also the way that my tone travels from note to note, so you could call that color. It's the way that I use vibrato and when I use vibrato and how that vibrato sounds. So we've talked about that in other episodes, let's say, how to practice color change and sort of the lip roll, tongue position thing that you have to learn how to do. And you learn that by doing it, by practicing changing colors and doing so like really violently, so you know the mechanism sort of by rote. And then when you try to do something nuanced, well, you're asking your body to figure out how to do that, and it uses that tool to do it. So, but it's also like my choice of arrival point. That's part of my voice too. That's part of my understanding of music. And it's one of the things that we celebrate that makes us unique as people who are musicians, right? As I'm a person and a musician, and so I have both my personal affect as well as my musical background, and that includes everything I've listened to and every lesson that I've ever had, and I don't know, I mean, everything that I've played, I guess, right? And my interpretation, both theoretically and musically, of all of those things, and the timing of them, right? So there's a lot that goes into your voice, and it's not just, my sound. But I need to practice it. That's one of the things that we sometimes say, oh, this is just the way I sound, and my voice is valid, and you can't tell me otherwise. And yeah, that's true, but don't you want that to be the best voice that it can be? Like, are you done with it? Because if you're done with it, then you're done learning stuff, and that sounds terrible to me. I don't ever want to be done learning stuff. And so I want to grow this. I want to feed it with better sounds. I want to listen to maybe more cello and more actual voice, and opera is what I've been listening to lately. I used to hate opera, but I'm noticing that there's something there that I don't have, and that's scary to me and unacceptable. And so I'm practicing that, and these are the perfect place because they are literal operas sometimes. But okay, let's play German song. Let's play it on the C trumpet as written, because I want to practice my. There's a request already. Farewell to Thee, Mary, which I don't know. Do you know what number that is, Thomas? I'll look it up. But first we'll play German song, and maybe by then you can tell me the number. So I need to practice the same thing on my C trumpet. Let's get rid of some stuff in there. And I usually have a normal mouthpiece for this because, well, that's where my best voice comes from. But I might also, if I had to play, let's say, a show, like a pit orchestra kind of thing, where I had to play high notes, but I also had to do this kind of stuff. And there are a lot of shows like that. My Fair Lady and The Music Man, and not so much Hairspray. You really just kind of do commercial, but I'm trying to think of other ones that have this kind of duality. Anyway, there's a lot of them, and sometimes you switch mouthpieces, and that's okay, but I might practice my voice on my shallow mouthpiece if I needed it, right? That it's harder. I used to do it a lot more, but we won't get into it today because I haven't been practicing it. But let's do this. So here's German song as written on the C trumpet. Okay, good. 3080 says. I'll do that next. And we're just going to go, I'm going to go straight for it, but we'll practice for a second. Da, da, dum, dum, da. And I know I apologize for my terrible voice. This is right out of my range. I can't help it, right? But what am I practicing? I'm practicing the space between notes. I'm practicing the arrival. I'm practicing if there's any timing, I can practice that. And I'm still practicing the pitch in the fingers, as bad as my voice is, right? So don't be afraid to sing anyway, even if you have a voice that's as bad as mine. Da, 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 da. So I want a little lift there. I want to emphasize the B natural because that's the leading tone. That's expressive. Da, 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 da. I want that lift. Da, 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 da. And this is also great for your fundamentals. Can I turn around the air and just play? Does my voice come right out, or do I have to like force it out? And that'll inform my fundamentals in my warm-up, right? I warmed up a little bit today. I want to do this video before I have to start cooking dinner and do other things. So I started a little earlier, and I'll practice through the night, most likely. But I'm going to be doing stuff like this because this is how I'm learning what I need to work on, and that's another aspect of this. So here's German song on the C trumpet, at least in part. Let's give that another shot. So I'm not perfect by any means, and I think probably far less expressive. I'm less good at it on my C trumpet, in particular this one. This is an old Gen 1 Chicago that I bought secondhand. My Gen 2 is more expressive, but it's a little harder to wrangle. Again, that one's at school because I play there more. But, okay, now I know this one's going to take some, valve oil and some other stuff. So Thomas is on and is requesting number 38. And let's see if we can find that. Yes, Farewell to Thee, Mary. Oh, this one's tricky looking. So let's get some valve oil first. And while I'm doing this, so let's sort of review what we're doing here. Why are we doing it? Well, we want to be more expressive, and we want to, like, that's kind of the point, right? If I'm not being expressive, if I'm not doing anything expressively, then I'm not really helping people to feel any kind of emotional connection with the music that I make. And if I'm not doing that, what am I doing? I'm showing off how great I can play Carnival of Venice quickly or something, right? And that's not to say that the Carnival of Venice should be unmusical or unemotional. It should be those things, right? But, okay, I can understand if somebody played something really pyrotechnic just for the sort of show of it, right? There's a reason to do that, and I'm not going to knock it. But I don't really want to do anything that's unemotional and call it music. I would maybe call it something else then. And so as we do that, that's something to consider both in the literature that I choose to play and, well, how I prepare, right? So if I'm not prepared to play emotionally, and I say that, let me caveat that. I do not want to be emotional as I'm playing. I want to move the audience to be emotional in a specific way that I am pulling from my empathy, and I want them to sort of feel that sympathetically. Does that make sense? So I'm going to play something. There's number 39 is right after the one that has been requested. Is called In Happy Moments. And so maybe I want that one to feel happy when I play it to the audience. Well, it might be okay if I'm happy during it, but then what happens when I want it to feel sad on a different piece? Well, should I feel sad when I play it? Some people would argue yes, but I would argue no. I'm an actor. I'm here acting like it's sad, right? So that you feel it. I don't need to feel it. I need to execute it. And so then I have to think about that. And that's what we're doing. We're practicing that. So now, can we play this one? This would be a good one to play on E flat trumpet as if it were a B flat part. So, da da da. Let's see, it's in 6/8. So, let's see, da 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 dum ba da 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 da. Da 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 dum bum ba ba da da ba da da. I think that's right. Da 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 da. Oops. Da 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 dum ba da 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 dum ba da 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 da. So you can tell I was worried about the fingerings first, and that's okay. I'm not playing yet, so I'm getting the fingerings down, but I'm not really making very good musical decisions. So how do I want to do it? Maybe I'm going too fast to make a good musical line. Da, 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 bum, ba, da, da, da. It's easier to make music when you go slower, right? But then I have more responsibility to do it. It is andante, so I'm going to say that that's a good solution. And now that this thing seems to work okay, let's see how musically we can play on the E flat trumpet. So this would be a good time also to practice some things that I'm going to use. What am I going to use as I play musically? Well, I can use, we haven't talked about volume yet. Volume is most people's only musical tool, and I sort of rail against that a lot because I don't think it's a very good one because, well, that can be written in music, and often either it's not written at all or we get something like this where it's just piano and it doesn't ever change, so that means I shouldn't change, right? I would say, yeah, because there are crescendos and other dynamics in other pieces, so if Arban wanted me to, well, I guess Grouch in this case is the guy, FN Grouch. Or more like Grouch. If he wanted me to get louder, he would tell me to, and he doesn't. So I need to be expressive within the piano dynamic. So what am I going to use instead? I'm going to use color, I'm going to use timing when it's appropriate, and maybe volume will be a small part of this, but within the piano dynamic, maybe I can grow a little bit and arrive. So I can use maybe 10% of what a lot of people do. But mostly I want it to be color and articulation, timing, all of that stuff, right? So let's see if we can get a color change exercise, and then we'll start Farewell to Thee, Mary, number 38. I'm just using the first note as a sort of template. I'm trying to get color and pitch control independent, and volume sometimes will go along with that, but it's because brighter sounds louder and darker sounds softer. But I can play softly and brightly, and I think that's where I want to start here. So that's my part of my voice. That's the tone part of my voice where I want to start is a little bit brighter. So right away you can hear on the E flat trumpet, because it's so much shorter, you can hear how much harder it is for me to keep my production going, and I'm not even playing that soft. You can hear my articulation a little bit too aggressive, I would say. I'm kind of really, and my embouchure has to do so much work to really do all of this as well as I'd like. And so if you are trying this at home, don't be afraid to spend a little embouchure getting it all just right. And then as you practice it, you can try to relieve some of that stress, that you don't need to try so hard because you know exactly where it needs to be the way that you play it, right? But at first, and I would even argue maybe forever, there might be a little more effort here and even in here that needs to happen in order to make sure that all of these nuances get across to the audience. So let's try it again. I'll tongue less hard and see if I can't make it work better. So one of the benefits of doing this is also that my E-flat trumpet, and I'll review the tape as you're listening to it now, my E-flat trumpet sounds a lot like my C trumpet, I hope, right? I'm using the same vision. I'm not worried. I'm not trying to sound smaller. I'm trying to sound the same. And I'm sure there will be some tone lost because, of course, there has to be, but not really. If I am wielding my abilities against these instruments for my voice, and my voice hasn't changed, then as long as my abilities outweigh the detriment that the instrument has, I should be able to sound fairly similar, if not exactly the same, on all my instruments. And that's due to my voice not changing just because I change trumpets. Now, a lot of times we change trumpets for facility, and in that case, we might change the ideal sound as well because, well, I'm trying to play this high thing and it needs to sound a certain way, right? That's okay too, but in this case, I'm trying to keep the vision kind of held together. So I'll play you one more. We'll switch back to the B-flat trumpet now. And these are a little bit boring sometimes because they're sort of short, and but you can do a few of them in a row. And one thing we haven't talked about is your endurance. If you've never played a wedding, let me tell you, weddings can be brutal. So sometimes you'll play prelude for 30 minutes, and hopefully you're sharing that with the organist playing solo and then together. But sometimes you're not. And so you're playing like basically a recital, and then it's time for the wedding party to start coming in. And so you'll play for the bridesmaids, and you'll play for the grandparents, not in this order necessarily, then you'll eventually play for the bride. Usually there's a fanfare before that. And then sometimes it's not very long until the end where you have to play a recessional and then some more music to get people out of the church. So you might play, well, somewhere around an hour of music for some weddings. And I just played a wedding where I totally flat on my face folded. And I did the best I could, but it was very soft in there, and I just was not, I played lessons all day, and I just wasn't really, I couldn't get through it. You know, it wasn't what I thought it was, and then I got there and it was too late. So it's all on me, but how do I practice so that never happens again? Well, this is how. I'm going to play musically and dynamically appropriate and with my best voice, and I'm going to do so for longer periods of time, and maybe several of these in a row, like I might have to play at a wedding. And it could be my recital I'm preparing for, it could be wind ensemble, it could be anything. But anyway, I'm turned to page, let's see, which one do we want to do? How about number 130, page 231, La Somnambula by Bellini. And I don't know if I've done this one before. It looks like maybe I have. But these are very operatic and potentially actual operas. I'm not sure about this one. Let me know in the comments if you know. But this one moves a little bit faster. It's Allegro moderato, And, well, I'm just going to play it, and we'll see. I'll turn this timer on, as a matter of fact. I always forget to turn it off, but we'll turn the timer on, and we'll see how long we want to play. All right, so this is, there are several La Somnambulas on here, but this is number 130 on page 231. Whew, that was a long phrase. And that was only 1 minute, so we better keep going. Let's see, we'll turn the page again. I thought I had a couple of these ready to go, but this one's very long. We'll try the Alpine Horn. And I don't think I'm going to make it all the way through after what I've already played today, not just for you, but before. But we'll see what we get. So I talked for about a half hour. That's, or half minute. That's as much as you'll ever get. You can already hear, like, I'm starting to get tired. It's only been 3 minutes of playing. And I'll usually do this at the end of my sessions, and I'll try to get, oh gosh, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes at a time. I have a practice journal entry from the other day where I played 10 minutes at a time with, like, just go to the next one, go to the next one, go to the next one. And then I got 7 minutes at a time and just same thing. And then by the, you know, and resting in between about half as much as I'm playing. So I'm really working on my endurance. And then I think I only got like 3 minutes at the end. But that was at the end of a day of a long practice session. Felt pretty good about that. I'm not feeling super great about finishing the Alpine Horn right now, though. And, you know, part of that is I've already played a lot, but I haven't done my full routine, so I'm not in my best striking position. So this is what I'm talking about, is if I don't work on this, this is always going to be a problem. And then when I play, let's say, a big solo in a wind ensemble, or if I play a solo with the wind ensemble, like out front, well, I'm not going to make it through that. Exposed like that, and maybe, you know, trying to play my best voice and musically for the first time. We like to focus on fundamentals, but we sometimes forget that we have to practice, like, really pushing it to the edges. So, yeah, but they're all beautiful and wonderful songs in the back here. Like I said, I was hoping to, I thought I had a really good one, but I can't. Oh, well, let's do one more a little bit. Thou Art So Near and Yet So Far, number 138 on page 234. And this one is almost too simple, so it really forces you to do something musical. And yet it has little rests all over it and a high A near the end, which we won't get to. But here's one more. Thou Art So Near and Yet So Far. And let's see how long I actually play. So you can already hear my full voice at forte is fine, and I'm not doing very much musically. I'm trying to sort of do it on the fly, and I would have to really practice this with my voice more. But the model of this channel is I'm never afraid to sound bad on stream, and that is as a service to, like, it's okay to try things and not quite get it. But what you're noticing here that I'm failing at is I just can't keep my voice in the piano and keep the response in my fundamentals. So what does that mean? It means I need to practice soft playing more, right? I need to do my fundamentals softly, and I need to make sure that I'm building the proper fundamentals into my soft playing, not just trying to play soft and failing. That's not going to help me. That's going to help me fail more. So how do I do that? Well, that's all routine stuff, and I would say I need to see how far I can go from my best production and quieter, where does it quit being my best production? And if that's only fortissimo to forte, okay, well then can I come back in at forte, and can I get at least a mezzo forte today, maybe? And if not, that's where I need to work, right? You always want to work just on this side of the edge of where it stops working. Because if you work over the edge, you're learning how not to play well, right? You're practicing beyond where you can actually do it. You need to practice a lot right next to where you stop being able to do it, but on this side of being able to do it, whatever that means. And so I would just do tapers, long tapers, until I feel, there's where my production fails. And then once I can do that consistently from just the turnaround, then I can do a whole routine where I'm only playing, let's say, mezzo forte, and I'm doing my lip slurs, I'm doing my high range, I'm doing my slow lip slurs, right? I'm doing my long tones, all at mezzo forte, and hopefully in a relaxed way that I'm way overwrought, and that's why I'm getting tired here. So that means I need to go back to my fundamentals, make it easy for me to play this way, and then come back here and see how far I can get. Maybe I can get 2 pages in a row. That would be great. That'd probably be about 8 to 12 minutes, depending on how long they are and how slow they are. So anyway, I'll leave you here. This has been a longer video than I intended, as usual, but I hope you learned something. I hope you kind of come away with like a reason to use this part of the Arban's book, and some challenges. Send me a video of you playing Thou Art So Near and Yet So Far, and show me how much you can really do with it. And I'm sure it'll sound better than what I just did, and that would be great. Then I'll have something to work towards too. Anyway, I'll see you next time, and until then, practice every day.